Well, in general, what happens is the prefrontal area is regulating the firing of the limbic area in the brainstem, which ultimately influence the way the body functions. Your heart pounding, lungs breathing, intestines churning. So all of this subcortical area, body, brainstem, limbic area, is modulated by the prefrontal cortex. So what can happen is a person can be talking and just going along, hello, how are you? No problem, everything's fine. The whole system is integrated. It's linking differentiated parts together. It's integration. And when that works, we call it the high road. Everything's fine. But some people have a hair trigger response. So if I feel slighted by you, if I feel you're humiliating me, if I have something happen which you may not even know is in my history that relates to what my mother did to me, then I can have my brainstem and limbic area start firing off bad, bad, bad in resonance with my own memory. My heart starts to pound, my intestines start to churn, those send signals back to my brainstem and limbic area, and they say, yes, this is an act of attack. And then I evaluate that this is not a safe place to be. And I can either engage in a cold kind of action against you, when the whole thing stays integrated by planning it and plotting it, or in the hot kind of response, this area shuts off and you basically flip your lid, and in very short order, two things happen. Number one, you've lost the inhibitory action of this on the reactive limbic and brainstem areas. But then once the limbic and brainstem areas stop being regulated by this, it's literally not, it's offline, it's not functioning well now. What happens is they then get way out of control. So it's those two things that happen, and so it goes from I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. There's a brief transition period where limbic firing and brainstem firing start to disable my prefrontal cortex. So you go from I'm kind of getting tight muscles, I'm kind of getting rigid, I'm kind of getting rigid, and then suddenly goes boom because the prefrontal cortex goes offline. And any attempt to hold on to the teetering balance is lost, and the thing goes and these lower areas hold sway, and that anything is possible. I can say horrible things, I can commit acts of immorality, I can be extremely destructive and violent, and I will be enacting an evolutionarily ancient circuit of self-defense that may have no boundaries. You know, this low road behavior can happen with someone's temperament. You can kind of be very hot-wired, you know, and so you're reactive, but you come back to balance pretty readily. Attachment experiences, too, can make people vulnerable to low road, so any of us can go down the low road if you haven't eaten, if you're tired, if there's a particular issue related to your life. So the low road is probably a common human experience. I've only found one human being in my practice that's never gone down the low road, and he's got his own shut-off experiences, so I'm not sure that's a good thing that he hasn't. The key thing is, you know, how quickly does someone go down the low road? What is the stimulus that gets you there? When you're there, how long do you stay? How long does it take for you to actually return to the low road, to the high road from being on the low road? And then how quickly do you actually stabilize yourself? Because just because you've gotten back to the high road doesn't mean you stay there. It's actually a period of intense vulnerability. So if you're rebuffed when you try to make a reconnection, you can go back there again. So for all those reasons, any of us can have variations on this low road experience. In my clinical encounters with people and in reading the research, my sense is that the most vulnerable individuals to going down the low road are those with disorganized attachment histories as children. And what that manifests itself often as adults is something called unresolved trauma and unresolved grief. So while any of us can go down the low road, it's probably the disorganizedly attached child and the unresolved trauma, grief, disorganized adult who are the most vulnerable to the low road behaviors. And unfortunately, what you can see then is that low road behavior produces a vulnerability for low road behavior in a child. So if you're an adult who does that over and over again without repairing it with your child will develop, unfortunately, a disorganized attachment and make them vulnerable to going down the low road too in their life And then when they're parents, they'll do it again. So this is the cross-generational passage of disorganized attachment and a vulnerability to violence.